Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Self-Love Life 101 with Dr. Crystal Bell. Today I have a lot of new updates for you, which I'm really excited to share regarding Self-Love Life 101 and 2022. But before we begin, please hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any more of my updates. And also, if you resonate with this video and if it touches something inside of you, make sure you hit the thumbs up and comment below. All right, let's get started. So first and foremost, the good news is for the year 2022, Self-Love Life 101 will continue with monthly themes. The monthly theme for January was actually the significance of crying in our lives. And in those podcasts, which are shared exclusively on Patreon, and you should definitely become a patron of my Patreon work if you want more access to radical self-care tips. On my Patreon page, I have exclusive posts just about self-care. I also have a lot of audio recordings and meditations. I did a lot of meditations in 2020 and 2021. I have shifted some of that creative work now to really focus on the podcast, because the goal for Self-Love Life 101 is to eventually have an up and running podcast for the public. But I am starting with Patreon with only my patrons. So for now, it's exclusive content, more behind the scenes. You can become a patron for as little as $5. Make sure you check out my Patreon page. You will not be disappointed. So in those podcasts, I really discuss a lot about why it's important to cry, why it's important to let out those tears in order to experience true liberation. And through doing, those podcasts, I learned a lot about just a lot of the studies and research that have been done about the art of crying. And I talk about this a little bit on Patreon, but a dear friend of mine, and I want to give a shout out to my dear friend who was talking to me about a TikTok video that she saw where an indigenous activist was saying crying is doing something about it. And often we see crying as being weak or, having a moment of vulnerability, which is okay, right? We all have moments of vulnerability, but also understanding that crying helps us to release inner pain and different emotions that we may be repressing. So let it out, cry. If you want more access to my self-care tips on the importance of crying, become a patron of my Patreon page, Self-Love Life 101. Patreon.com/selflovelife101. All right, so to continue, today I'm thirsty. This is the Polar Seltzer Water lime flavor. How many of you like seltzer water? That's really good. I highly recommend it for those of you who are into fitness and health and wellness, which is another aspect of my radical self-care. Join my private Self-Love Life 101 Fitness Transformation group on Facebook. But in that group, I share a lot of tips on how to keep your fitness on track. Salsa water is one of them, right? Instead of drinking juice, you can have water, you can have salsa water. So what is the theme for February? So the theme for February for Self-Love Life 101 is actually the connection between Black History Month and radical self-care. And so today on my Instagram page, follow me, Self-Love Life 101, I shared a quick 1-minute Black History Month overview, which discusses, number one, why do we even have Black History Month, right? Why does it exist? Who created it? By the way, it was created by Carter G. Woodson. And it officially came to be in the 70s, but he proposed a Negro History Week as early as 1926, okay? Now, Black History Month actually came to fruition in the late 60s, early 70s. So shout out to Carter G. Woodson for Black History Month. And today is February 1st, right? February 1st is the day I'm recording this video, which is also Frederick Douglass's birthday. So happy birthday, Frederick Douglass. if you don't know who Frederick Douglass is one of the most famous African American former slaves. He escaped slavery, okay? And he wrote a really incredible book, his autobiography, which really talks about how he escaped from slavery and how he used literacy to essentially become a free person and a great thinker. So I highly recommend reading the autobiography of Frederick Douglass if you haven't already. Happy Black History Month. And I know I just centered 2 black men, so you know I gotta tell you about the sisters. In honor of Black History Month, I want to give a shout out to Assata Shakur, who Assata Shakur was a former Black Panther who did a lot for the movement and for the cause. She wrote an incredible book called Assata. If you don't know about Assata, I encourage you on this Black History Month, during this Black History Month, to read her book, Assata. All right, so look out for that first podcast on the connections between Black History Month and radical self-care, which will be coming out this Friday, February 4th. Yay! Really excited about that. So let's move on to more updates. In other updates, so I have picked up some new projects, some new crochet projects at this point. Now, you guys know that I actually knit and crochet. I taught myself to knit 3 years ago. I've always known how to crochet, but I've gotten better. Speaking of drinks, now I'm having some Dunkin' Now I'm having some Dunkin' Donuts, okay, coffee. And this is actually a macchiato with almond milk and 2 Splenda. That's how I like it. I also like it with a little cinnamon. But so yeah, so I'm just like having all the drinks while I shoot this video. Coffee and salsa, coffee and salsa. All right, so anyway, so you guys know that I knit and crochet. And in 2020, I had a video how to knit. So if you want to learn how to knit, you can check out that video. And I want to show you, I've been working on one particular project for a very long time, and sometimes it's like that. Sometimes I have projects that I start, and just because of life and how hectic it is, I end up working on it for really long periods of time, and I will show you what I've been working on. I have been working on this scarf from my brother now for a very long period of time, and I'll show you. So it's a blue scarf, and I'm using a yarn that kind of feels like cashmere. And so can you see that? Look at that. It's so pretty. It's a ribbed pattern, and at this point, I mean, I've got about, well, I guess this is about 16 inches of work, and so it's going to be like a longer scarf, right? And it's supposed to be like a thin scarf. You know, my brother's kind of like a cool guy, and it's a simple pattern. It's a knit 3, purl 3 pattern. 1 row and then all knit the other row. So knitters know what I'm talking about in terms of patterns. If you're not a knitter but you would like to learn, check out my knitting video. I will link it, okay, on the side for you. But yeah, so I've been working on this for over a year. To be fair, I started like right before the pandemic hit, and once the pandemic hit, I was just working on so many other things, but I plan to finish. So I started, and then this is an oldie but goodie. This is a cowl, like this, you know, the cowl scarves. Check that out. Y'all know I like colors. So this is a pattern that I really, and this is a knit 3, purl 3 pattern as well. I liked rich stuff. So anyway, for the cowl neck, you have it on like this. You see that? And then if you get closer, you see I have that sort of multicolored yarn in the middle. I love this, and I was like, oh, I need to make more of these. Hello. And I made this actually, like, I made this 2 years ago, and I love it. It's warm, it's cute. You can jump in the car with it while you're driving. Speaking of driving, if you follow me on Instagram, you know that I got a new car. If you want to know what new car I got, follow me on my personal page, which is Crystal Isbell over on Instagram. All right, so I actually, for Black History Month, I'm doing something special, and this just came to me. So last week I was like, oh, I just feel like crocheting. Sometimes I feel like crocheting because I just feel like using 1 needle as opposed to 2 needles in knitting. And I just started, I had this beautiful yarn that I had purchased months before at Michael's. And so I decided to make a bag. Yes, it was like, I'm going to make a bag. Now here's the crazy thing about this bag I made. There is no pattern that I use. I developed the pattern myself. Are you ready to see my bag? Ah, ta-da! I made this lovely crochet bag, and let me show you because I'm so in love with it. It's like rectangular shape, as you can see. Look at the details, look at the details. And so for the pattern, it's a series of double crochet and single crochet. And I also skipped some stitches to create a more spaced out ribbing effect for the purple color. And then for the strap here, and if you see for the strap, I basically did similar. It's a double crochet, and then towards the end, it's a bunch of double crochets in each stitch, and you skip 4. And that's how you sort of get that look. So I will be creating these for Black History Month. I will be making a skirt to go with this. If you want to see some photos, check out these photos that I'm adding here to this video. If you're interested, I will be selling these bags that I make all Black History Month. All proceeds will go to the NAACP Legal and Children's Defense Fund. Put your money where your mouth is. This is how I am celebrating Black History Month, by making these bags and donating anything that I make from these bags to the NAACP. If you want to donate to a charity of your choice, please see the link in the description box. I have a link to a bunch of charities, Black organizations that you can donate to for Black History Month and even after Black History Month too. Check it out. All right, awesome. So with that said, the last but certainly not least update is my book. So for those of you who don't know, I am an educator by trade, and currently I am a director of partnerships for a nonprofit organization. And so a lot of my work involves working with large school districts. I've also been a professor and a director of education at a large public university. And I've been working on my book, Start with Radical Love, Developing Social Justice Educators in the 21st century. Hello, Crystal, coming to the 21st century. And that is set to be released at the end of this year. So as you can imagine, I am finishing up the book, and it has been hard. The pandemic hit me hard because I scaled up Self-Love Life 101 at the same time that I was working on my book. And it's a lot of management. So please send me all the good vibes as I work on my book. I'm excited to share this book with you because it really is a great example of the intersections between myself as a scholar and then also a lover of wellness and radical self-care. All right, guys. So before I leave you guys, I want to remind you, follow me on Instagram on my personal and my business page. And if you are not already a patron of Self-Love Life 101, patreon.com/selflovelife101, you don't want to miss the Black History Month series where I've got new crochet and knitting projects for you. And I've also got new podcasts for you where we're going to center Black history and radical self-care. Until next time, peace. Check out selflovelife101.com too for some merch. Bye.